So, this video is about something that is not otherwise heard because this is all original from Mighty Kitchen. Now, the thing is, you have heard of the Samudra Manthan, yeah? And you also know that in that whole story, there is Kaustubha, which is one of the outcomes from Samudra Manthan, and Vishnu has it, yeah? Now, a lot of people cannot handle Kaustubha, and only Vishnu can, because it is it's like pure water, so to speak. It'll digest even iron. Yeah. So there's this movie Atrangi. Yeah, but the thing is, it's not something that you can swallow, nor can you spit. Yeah, if you try to consume it from either end, from the mouth end or from the ass end. So don't try to um, handle what I'm talking about without you kind of keeping it out there and appreciating it. Don't try to consume it direct, straight, oh, shiny, nice, and then eat it up. That'll get you into trouble. This is to be appreciated, considered, and then slowly. This is like you don't teach people to catch fish. All right. You don't give people fish, but have them appreciate fish so they don't have to catch fish. Kind of. Okay. Appreciate fish so they have fish without having to catch it. More like it. What I'm doing is I'm presenting the idea of not a fish, well, let's just say an idea, so that you have the idea without you having to catch it and consume it. Okay? Kind of like induction cooking or Bluetooth, so to speak. Yeah. You have the message, but it's not lost. You have the apple and eat it too, so to speak. But this is not eating it. It is you having the apple, and that's enough, kind of. It's a different kind of consumption, so to speak. It's called appreciation, but it's not a truth in there, but something that then generates inside you, and you have a truth. Then you can again look at this matter and then see, does it match? So it's a learning process. And the idea is of the Samudra Manthan. Yeah, Kaustubha is like rare. It's not found everywhere. So this idea of the Samudra Manthan corrects from my previous idea that ancients represented the idea of the Samudra Manthan with Mohini kind of cheating the devas and then the asurs and giving amrita only to the surs. Yeah. And in the process, Rahu Ketu lost their head and violence and all that stuff. And that may have been a reason why things have, we have a certain thought line about it, about violence maintained by those ideas. But it's a lack of perspective, as I got into today. So this is fresh news. Yeah, fresh from Mighty Kitchen, Mighty Oven, more like it, Mighty Bakes. Now, in the idea of Samudra Manthan, they are talking about Sur and Asur. They're also talking about rishis adding herbs to Kshirasagara, yeah, kind of like Milky Way. Then the ocean of milk. Yeah. And then you have Shiva, Parvati doing Vishachikitsa as Ardhanarishwar, no? Twin flame. So she's doing the Vishachikitsa. So Shiva doesn't, Nilakanta goes beyond. So instead of the fire becoming fury, it becomes like Swaha. So, so that's also an idea. But Parvati, there's Shiva Parvati, then there's Vishnu, and then there's the pantheon of gods. Okay, but Sur and Asur. And then there's a mountain, and then there's a snake, and then yeah, and then there's a poison, also representing the Nilakanta, that the poison that Shiva would have otherwise died. No, the world would have gone to destruction if Shiva hadn't consumed that poison. And it's in his throat, and Parvati then does Vishachikitsa. So Samudra Manthan continues. A lot of allegories. One of the things is that ancients have been trying to communicate a message. There is this thought of why matter versus antimatter. I'm talking physics, particle physics. There's this question of why has matter, why is creation continuing? Kind of matter versus antimatter, because if matter and antimatter come together, they should be annihilating. But we do have reality. We do have things, planets, stars, humans. So how has this become possible? There is a preference for sur or music versus other than that. Disharmony, there's a preference for harmony. And that's what the idea of Vishnu disguised as Mohini offering Amrita to the Surs, not to the Asurs, looking at the Asurs, but giving Amrita to the Surs. Yeah, that's because there's a preference for harmony versus disharmony. Mohini, Vishnu disguised as Mohini, is representing the Trilokya Mohana Chakra. Mohini is like the silent flute, kind of like, you could say temptation, but it's not temptation, it's more beguile, a yearning, but something pleasant that you would rather follow. Yeah. Moha or desires. Trilokya Mohana Chakra. Desires. And the desires, what is desirable amongst the desires, is that which facilitates harmony. So Mohini looking at this Asurs and giving Amrita to the Sur represents that harmony is preferred amongst the desires. We could have all kinds of desires, but the harmonious desires, or that which brings about harmony, are the desires that is preferred. Then Rahu and Ketu losing their head. Now there is Vishnu using the discus, Sudarshana Chakra. Yeah. So there is a 360-degree appreciation of the matter, which is what the discus is representing. So it's not just angular. You're looking only forward or backward or sideways. A 360 appreciation of the matter. And upon 360 degrees appreciation of the matter, desires which prefer harmony is preferred. That's one thing. But also, it requires a person who's in a position, say on a pedestal, yeah, who's kind of grown up, and then I am. Do not have that, oh, I am, but to be able to de-pedestal. Otherwise, you have a heavy head. Yeah, the weight of your head may be more not allowing for stuff to happen. But it's not about taking the head off. But it's more like there's this idea of Mammiur. Now, Shiva is said to have been resting on a river. Now, this is a parallel correlation, yeah, related with the Samudra Manthan, related allegory. Shiva has been said to be resting by a riverside, yeah, and a, a statue of Krishna was found from some place, and they had to do prana pratishtha, establish that in a particular place, in that place where Shiva was resting. And there was a request, thereabouts, that's the story thereabouts. And then Shiva was requested to maybe if he would move to another place, because a sage or somebody said the Krishna statue has to be established here, made a temple here. So Shiva, who is said to be the Maheshwara, moves from that place to another place called Mammiur. Okay, so I don't know if this is a Guruvayur, but he goes to another place called Mammiur, and there's a temple there. Yeah, and that displacement, moving from one place to another, it's more like um, Archimedes, yeah, Eureka, yeah, water displacement. And then there's the weight of the matter was more, weight was able to be then measured differently, yeah. So the displacement was Shiva de-pedestaling instead of, oh, me, oh, how can they ask me to? He actually just moved. And that temple was able to be established. So all of its strife and everything reduced. And life continues. And life still continues because Shiva is like sitting on the mountains and Himalayas and lording and yeah. And the river of life continues. So Shiva, instead of lording, there's a Ganga flow. Yeah. So amongst civilizations, so it's not about Swalpa Jasmati or you just displacing yourself or you being irrelevant. That's what the Rahu Ketu speaks about. Rahu Ketu is also representing the um, new moon and the full moon. The full moon, in the new moon, you can't see the moon. It's all dark. And then from there emerges another cycle of the moon. In the full moon, it's all resplendent. Yeah, kind of. If you kind of before the new moon and before the full moon, yeah, there's a certain soundness to it. Um, but that's also one way to look at it. After the full moon, or rather, after that cycle, you go into the dark before you can then emerge as new. So it's in between that which you can't see. One is you can call it as birth and death. Before the birth, there is no sound, but then quietly life emerges. And also there's this idea of the descent, yeah? But both is in some way quiet. You can't quite hear much. It's also silent. Two kinds of silence in that sense, but of a different quality. But this is regularly happening inside our body as apoptosis and poiesis. Poiesis is more like emergence, birth. And apoptosis is the cell cycle, death until a new. Yeah. But the thing is, our body is going through these, but also our identities needs to go through these cycles. Otherwise, we are a pain. Our head weight is too much, and you have ossified skulls which don't breathe, and common sense does not function. Regularly breathing, Japanese have this idea of wasabi. Yeah, after the meal, after a certain meal, they have this paste wasabi. But I tasted once. Oh, it was like an, I had through my skull bones. I was thinking, oh my goodness. Yeah, it's, oof. Yeah, through your skull bones, they just do that. Air kind of moves. And then after some time, it's different. With Mighty's healthy natural breathing, Mighty Yoga, the bones are regularly breathing. So common sense is not having you be a coconut with no enlightenment. Coconut, extra virgin coconut oil, has your memory, Alzheimer's, or any of those concerns. You not have them by regular consumption of coconut oil is said to be, but then your head would be functioning like nice oily essential oil of the head, more like coconut head, coconut oil. Memory is maintained all nice because in Malayalam they call it as velichenna. Velicham also is another word for like light. So you're staying enlightened without losing your common sense. Yeah. So my ego, the whole body breathes, but there's also a certain way of maintaining health from the head. Okay, it's you can't just directly go for it because a lot of people can't even feel their nose. Is something that I discovered. So from being able to have exteroception, interoception, several other degrees is how you then be able to breathe. Yeah. So common sense is maintained, and you also have long life because otherwise you have inflammation and all kinds of details. Also, people tend to have consciousness, subconscious, conscious, subconscious, unconscious, supraconscious processes. So then you go into hallucinations, mystical experiences, there's endocannabinoids, and a lot of complications will come about. Yeah. Also, you don't want to have an aneurysm from you having old spiritual experience. Yeah. While your body may be dealing with a lot of hormonal changes, and you need to regulate that. Earth, water, fire, air, spirit, space. You need to regulate that, come to a balance. Your sense and sensibilities need to come to a balance before you can work on your head. Yeah, you don't want to get an aneurysm. So I'm just saying that there is degrees of yoga which you don't know about, and people haven't figured this out by themselves. And if they are doing it very interesting ways. You even have Shaivites, they even apply vibhuti. So they call them ghori. Yeah, I mean, that's there. But there's also, they are making the heavy light. But this is how you make the heavy light too. Enlightenment. You lighten the matter. So many people have done so much of enlightenment activity that I can just talk about now about maintaining the enlightenment or continuing to do the enlightenment by just breathing healthy naturally from your body. It's a different method of yoga, but you don't even have to move a muscle. But if you don't know how to do it, you could fracture a muscle or an aneurysm, or there are many physiological processes if you don't know how to do it. But I'm just letting you know there is another way for a gori, yeah, enlightenment, light. Ghora is also dark. Uh, Gha, it also means heavy, yeah. So you could be one heavy guru, yeah, or dark lord, and you could be a care, yeah. There's also this idea of dark matter, but then yes, it could be a little too heavy. And I'm talking about light things, Lalita Sahasranama, all light. Lalita Gana, yeah, like light. This is a light version of the other way is all heavy. Oh my goodness, yeah. So many dots and dashes of Sri Chakra. And I'm talking from the center, one dot, light, yeah. And how to have that, do that, yeah, okay. Have the benefit from that. So that also requires a perspective on numbers 0 to 9 and then 10. You could go, oh, 10, next level. Yeah. 10 to 19. Ooh, yeah, me growing up. It's also called Jack and the Beanstalk. You can go really up and then find you're a monster or you're behaving monstrously. You have monstrosities. And that's really heavy. Yeah. So, and you don't want somebody to, yeah, chop you into size. No. So instead, what you have is 0 to 9, and then the 10 is where you come back into the zero baseline zero. But how you do that is by mamure. It's a little displacement. You recognize you're displacing water, or your weight is then you need to evaluate your weight in the whole scheme of things and not displace things, not cause disturbance in the whole scheme of things, but instead make things better by allowing for what is showing up to show up so that what is disharmonious becomes harmonious. The asur becomes more harmonious, and the devamrita, yeah, is then harmonious. Desires are then more preferred, and the elixir of life is more preferred, the somaras, they say, yeah, so to speak. From the mohana, body as the body of desires, from healthier metabolism arises devamrita, like Ganga. When water is purified or the bodily substance is more purified, what is then remaining is even the vodka is like made from a continuous distillation column. But if you remove even vodka from the continuous distillation column, all you have is water. And we so good water that could even digest iron. So people who are eating iron stuff to improve for hemoglobin requires iron. Yeah. But you need to also digest the iron so that the crude, heavy metal, crude iron, over time becomes like gold. You ennoble. And for that, your metabolism needs to be good. So your even iron, crude stuff is over time, like the periodic table, over time becoming a noble gas. You're becoming an ennoble person, humane, kind, yeah, and bringing about harmony, no matter where you came from, yeah, sur, asur, wherever you came from, to improve the harmony. to improve the wholesomization, to improve the betterment of how things are. That is also what the whole Samudra Manthan idea is representing. Several factors, including the food you eat, many, many, many details, just all of that encapsulated in one image. Can you imagine how much of work must have happened to represent that idea? And then there are benefits from this, the Navaratnas, yeah, the Kamadhenu, as in a cow, yeah. Um, a lot of stories around what Kamadhenu represents. When you say milk of human kindness, where does the milk come from? So you maintain cycles of life. Lactose intolerance may also be because of poor metabolism. Yeah, they say genes turning on, turning off. But genetic expression is also because of somatic mutations. Ancestors, um, this generation, previous generation, no matter where. So there has been also somatic mutations, which may have then, it's apparently said that somatic mutations don't pass on through gametes. But I find that's an incorrect understanding of how gametes move from parents to siblings, because there is also inherited characteristics of, say, over time, when there's changes in the DNA, that's not just limited only to alleles, in the sense body-based um, chromosomes, but also um, gametes, sex-based chromosomes. There is a fine communication between those two. They may or may not have studied, or we may not have, or I may not have gotten the studies which is linking body-based chromosomes and sex chromosomes. I may not have gotten those things, but there is a connection there. For example, I found the Y chromosome, the standoffish male genes in the Y chromosomes affects how why we are having competition and comparison versus equity and humanity cross boundaries, because male genes of Y chromosomes began to start reducing from the late Triassic era to now, from 900 to now 55. So the sex-based chromosomes are having an effect on how the body, on the human morphic resonance field, on the human body formation, and how pregnancy is maintained, how fertility is maintained. So they're all related. This is what I've found. You may not have heard this before because I discovered it through my research and development, and then I'm connecting the dots, putting the dots together in a manner that makes sense. The Samudra Manthan is a frame of reference where you do have several dots that you can then refer to. So I'll put this out there to let me know if this makes sense to you. You have further questions on how I arrived at this, or what does this imply, or how we can work with these details, or what difference can this make to you and your life from understanding life from this perspective? It's a mighty difference, and it's a mighty advantage once you know what this makes available. So I'll leave that question to be asked. There are several questions that could be asked in your court. Yeah. We will have a discussion based on how you appreciate this matter. And if there's any questions arising in your end, then we can have a discussion and there would be enlightenment, better understanding, and how this then benefits not you, us, future generations, but also those who haven't even born or thought about being born. So thank you so much for your kind interest. Good day.